Seidler, and I'm here to share with you some wonderful children's fiction that can be used as integrating language arts with social studies. Social studies generally was thought to be kind of boring, textbooks, large, one area learning, and we have changed it greatly. And I'm here to share with you what I've done with these books. This is Pink and Say. This is a history piece. It's a biography of a story handed down throughout generations about Pink and Say, and their differences as far as characters and being a part of the Civil War. I chose, because of their differences, to present a Venn diagram that you could do with your students regarding Pink and Say and their differences, how he was poor and owned as a slave, and the other was free and actually not learned, and the other one could read. And there's a lot of vocabulary and voice because of the mother, Momo Bay, and how she speaks about haulin' and crawlin' and get, and it really brings up the language of the South. And it also brought up a reference to a lot of things in history, the Union colors, the war, the Abraham Lincoln. That brought me to a cubing activity that the students could do, which is a research on references to the book. And this particular was on the Civil War, where you do a description, you compare it to something, which I compared it to child labor laws. You argue for or against, you apply your knowledge, you associate, and you analyze the information. Here's my cubing activity that the students could do regarding the Civil War. Another fictional book that I chose was Slow Down for Manatees. This introduces the animal, the manatee, and it brings up a lot of different areas that I chose to do a cluster web, because the story tells about that the mammal was in Florida, brings up the geographical location of Florida, that you could do mapping and finding out the characteristics of Florida. Description of the animal, it is a mammal, so that brings up lots of questions about what is a mammal, etc. They could describe. It is an endangered species that it brings up in the book. That there's animal rescue efforts you could research, arguments for or against, and there's lots of activities that I chose based on the cluster web for them. Was a manatee informational booklet on the animal, the rescue and protection of the manatees that they could research and make booklets on. Manatees are endangered species and what that means, and how many were killed per year, etc. Florida, the climate and landscape and the geography of where it's located, drawing the state, telling what states border it, and as well as you could have them do some mapping, actually pointing out where Florida is on the map, its bordering states, etc., and where we are in relation to Texas. And then in the end, they could do some sort of, based on their opinion, should you save the manatees or not, and they could do some posters, save the manatee, and what they have learned regarding slowing down voting traffic, etc. The next story I chose to do some work on was regarding civic duty with children, and that is where I chose two stories for different reading levels. One was The Little Red Hen, which is a classic story about who will help, and The Bernstein Bears and Lending Hand. This would be for more advanced level readers, and this would be for the lower reading group. And but basically the theme throughout that you come together and come up with is helping hands. And so through that, I had, and talking about, it actually speaks about the elderly as well. There's a interview page that they can interview an elderly person, and a grandparent, a friend, even stories that they have from their parents that they could do, and then also to write a helping hand display board that they can do their handprint and write a helpful community deed for the elderly that they would want to do. And then also, to make it fun, I wrote a skit on the Bernstein Bears, a short skit of Ms. McGrizz and the Cubs in the attic when they are learning that actually Ms. McGrizz isn't so scary, she's actually a lot of fun. Here's my skit that they could perform. My final book was Don't Pollute by the Bernstein Bears. The Bernstein Bears seem to have a lot of wonderful civic duty kind of messages in their books. This one is on pollution, which brings up the general question of what is pollution. So I decided to do a KWL chart. This is my KWL chart, which is what do we already know, what do we wonder about, and what have we learned. And here I've written my KWL chart of the questions that I would prompt the students to ask. What do they know about pollution? Come up with definitions, list of all the information that they know. And from that, what do we wonder about? Where is it going to guide us to what we want to explore? We can do research, computers, have guest speakers, field trips, and then in the end, what we have learned. And what I did decide to do was do a field trip with the students to the local recycling center in Pflugerville. And we can always come back and do a journal write on something like that. And also writing a story from a personal perspective of an animal in a very polluted environment. And here's a page for a writing assignment on that. So that's a way to incorporate writing, viewing, and also getting their background knowledge on what they know. I also made a large poster. How can we help? And this shows a polluted before pictures, a polluted after picture, a cleaned up after picture, and the question is posed, how can we help? And what I'm doing is I'm prompting higher level questions to get them to think about my end result, which is recycling, which will lead to recycling field trip in the end. But recycling and how this makes them feel, the polluted picture, what their feelings are, what would they like to do about it, and in the end hopefully have our result, which is recycling and cleanup efforts, which after our field trip, hopefully I want to propose a recycling effort just within our classroom. And also to share with them that there are recycling arts and crafts books out there, and we can make a recycling art project, which I did out of old magazine pages and making a arts and crafts bowl. And that is my presentation of how you can incorporate the 6 different types of language arts in with social studies to make it much more fun and exciting, instead of just sitting there and having to repeat back everything, and to make it much more